am Stonewall and joined as well as God. From here, I get a sweep of the whole right without a step. Without a small room of light to live.
We're back.
All right. This time,
Part 2.
we're going to be disciplined. Part 2. If you want to understand why I said that, go back to part 1. I'm just kidding.
Welcome, friends.
So, we're back at the Functional Human Podcast, and we are going to talk about pesticides today. Daryl took a lot of notes, and I want Daryl to go through her notes. But I'm going to start it off with one article that I just thought was incredible. It's just incredible that this is still being written in 2025. So let me share that right now so we can quickly jump into that. There's quite a bit in the article, and I wanted to scan through it because it actually really highlights a lot of what we've been talking about over the years, actually.
Don't they post one of these articles every year? I feel like every year I see this. We've talked about one like this before.
Oh, sure.
A few times. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
Oh, sure. Let's see. Here we go. Is this what you had in mind?
Fucking ultra, yeah. Like I don't even open these anymore. I'm like, oh,
I know.
Ridiculous. Who is this person?
I don't know.
Sandy Lamotte.
Sandy Lamotte. Lamotte. Okay, you do that, and I want to just tell you real quick. This article is full of some of the worst of the worst people, and we've covered a lot of them on this show over the years. It's as I read through it, I was like, oh, this is perfect, not just because of the concept of how stupid it is, but because of the people they chose to interview. A couple of names popped right out to me, and I was like, oh, I gotta bring this on the show. I just found it last night, and it's only about a week old. So the title from CNN Health: eating this ultra-processed food may be good for you and the planet, experts say. What in the world could that ever be, I wonder? So I'm going to read a little bit of this. So plant-based meats have an image problem. It's not the flavor or appearance. Look-alike beef burgers, chicken-like nuggets, and faux pork sausage often cook like meat. Some even bleed and sizzle in the pan, as if that's a good thing that they're artificially bleeding. I mean, the fact that she doesn't even realize what she's saying is comical, and are tasty enough to be gobbled up by climate-conscious carnivores. I don't know any carnivores who eat this stuff, by the way. It's not their role in saving the planet, according to the Good Food Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting alternative proteins. Replacing a beef burger with a plant-based patty can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 98% and land usage by 97%. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This is nonsense. Their statistics are nonsense. We've gone through it a million times. Crop agriculture actually contributes more to greenhouse gases than animal agriculture. And then you're not even talking about whether you're doing regenerative agriculture and improving the soil health. Just nonsense, complete nonsense. So her facts aren't even correct, but let's keep going. Let's keep going. Yet after the initial surge of consumer interest, the alt protein market in the United States has recently slowed, according to some estimates. Yeah, you should see Beyond Meat's stock price. It's plummeted.
You should just see the ingredients.
You can see that too. If you have enough time today to sit down and read them all, of course. Doctors and dietitians are reluctant to consider alternative proteins when advising patients on nutrition because they view these foods as ultra-processed, says nutritionist Roberta Alessandrini, director of the Dietary Guidelines Initiative at PAN, Physicians Association for Nutrition, good Lord, in Zurich, Switzerland. Yet, if carefully chosen, these foods can be a valid and helpful way to shift towards a more plant-forward diet, which is good for people and the planet, says the robot. Encouraging consumers to swap their beloved animal flesh for plant alternatives is increasingly critical, experts say. Global meat production and demand, a leading contributor to climate change, is projected to rise by up to 52% by 2050 compared with 2012 levels, according to the FAO. I want to get to, okay. There's such a great urgency related to climate change, environmental degradation, and public health that we need to give people as many options as possible, including plant-based alternatives, says leading nutritionist researcher, one of my favorites, Dr. Walter Willett. Now, I've outlined this guy many times, professor of epidemiology at Harvard. He is completely and totally conflicted by companies that pay him, plant-based companies. He's basically a vegan himself, and he gets all kinds of money. You go through my Instagram feed, you'll find Walter Willett all over the place. This guy's one of the worst. So they find him.
Walter
they dug
Willett.
him.
I feel like he needs to be a little animated character.
Oh, he
Walter
actually kind of
Willett
looks.
and it's his adventures.
He kind of looks like a character,
That just
like
came to me.
a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Hang on, ready? You want me to share? You want me to share something with you?
Yeah. Well, this is not nice, but we
No, it's not. But I'm not being mean. I'm just saying it's like a cartoon character. This is
we can all
what
be
kind of cartoon character?
characters. Oh, the mustache. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, just
to
a
be
nice
honest
little
with
cartoon.
you, he's like a nice man, though.
He does, yeah.
He's
He
sweet.
probably is, and he's really and he's super nice because he gets paid a lot of money by a lot of companies that
I'd be a super nice human too if I got paid millions of dollars.
Smart guy.
All
All right, so let's go back. That was funny because I actually he does resemble like multiple cartoon characters.
See? My gut. Sometimes it just comes to me.
Okay, Walter Willett. Okay, studies show eating a plant-first diet, the award-winning Mediterranean diet, is an example. Yeah. Okay. Again, Mediterranean diet doesn't mean anything. There are a bunch of different Mediterranean diets. This is again more nonsense. So this is something fun that I did. It says the Mediterranean diet can reduce the risk of diabetes, high cholesterol, dementia, memory loss, depression, breast cancer, and more. So just for fun, these are all clickable. I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to take you through the little rabbit hole, but I did just for the heck of it. I clicked on depression to see what their resource was. Well, the resource was another CNN article about the Mediterranean diet and nutrition and depression. So then I said, okay, well, what paper, what study is this article referencing? So I went down the rabbit hole and eventually I found the source. And of course, it was just a meta-analysis of observational studies. So, it's not like they put people in a lab and test depression on certain diets. Nope. They're just basically saying, oh, these people have less depression and they happen to eat a Mediterranean diet. Therefore, the Mediterranean diet reduces depression. That is absolute nonsense. That is not science. That is epidemiology. You cannot do that. No real scientist would do that. But this is CNN. It's not science. So again, we love to take you through these things because we love to show you how the packaging of the narrative is done. And this is very carefully crafted with a whole bunch of bullshit that doesn't actually relate to science or data in the real world.
Correct. And just to be clear, the Mediterranean diet, people love to point that out. And I'm not saying I'm against it, but we love to grab the title and then use it when it's convenient to us. So the Mediterranean diet is something that people praise because they use whole foods, right? Like they emphasize, okay, maybe you can pull the point that they emphasize on plant, I hate that term, not plant-based foods. They emphasize fruits, vegetables, real food, right? They do put whole grains in there, but a lot of the Mediterranean areas don't use the same shit that we do, and they make everything from scratch, and they have healthy fats like olive oil that is not processed, right? Maybe they have less access to cattle and red meat. Maybe that's why they do that. They still
but
eat
some
a lot
places, sorry, go ahead, keep going. I think you were going to get there. Sorry.
They still eat a lot. Like when I go to Italy, there's tons of seafood, fish, seafood, poultry, like that's still very prevalent.
Yeah.
And so is red meat, but they do like to state that in the Mediterranean description, it's like they don't eat as much red meat, but then they love to end it with and processed foods as if those two things are the same. And if you want to say that, well, then all of your fucking actual plant-based foods are ultra processed foods. So it doesn't work. Your theory doesn't work about the Beyond Meats and all those things. That makes no sense.
Right. And I'll be honest with you. I think unfortunately, a lot of these countries have fallen victim to the theory and the marketing of the Mediterranean diet. And they're not actually even eating the thing that was the Mediterranean diet. They're now like pushing what the Mediterranean diet supposedly is, because I know that my grandmother and the way I grew up, Lebanese, Italian, a ton of lamb, dairy, yogurt was was a huge part of it. Yep. So this is what I'm saying. Yeah. So in different areas, some actually do consume a lot of red meat. So essentially it is just a whole food diet. Animal proteins are a big part of it. They speak as if people on the Mediterranean diet don't eat red meat. And it's just total nonsense. Like you said, if you're in a coastal area, you're going to eat a lot more seafood. If you're in an area where ruminant animals are more prevalent, you're going to eat more red meat.
Correct.
I just feel like even the entire Mediterranean area has fallen victim to what they think they should portray as the Mediterranean diet. And it's unfortunate, because it is a great way of eating, because it encompasses whole foods and real fats. And it's nothing like what Westerners think a Mediterranean diet is. And again, there are multiple areas on the Mediterranean which all have slightly different versions of it. So to pretend that there's a Mediterranean diet is incorrect. And it's wild. It's wild. And this whole thing is just...
that girl, what's her name? Sandy Lamotte. You want to know what she does? Who she's about?
I would love to hear what she does.
Real quick on LinkedIn. So, master's degree in broadcast journalism. That's her background. So nothing.
No science, related. No nutrition, no health. Okay.
No. WebMD author for 12 years.
Yeah, there you go.
So director, executive producer, video. So developed staff and launched a highly productive and profitable video department on WebMD.
Okay.
So she works for CNN as well. So she's a social media girly, digital media. That's what she is. She has no nutrition background whatsoever. And she's writing this. I know, but just this is what's fucked up. Like, why are you, at least if I have, at least if somebody who has any nutritional education says something I don't agree with, I'll be like, okay, but this person has no right, in a sense. Everybody has a right, but in
I know.
this field, to say something about nutrition, to give nutrition advice, like that would be like me giving, I don't know, fucking how to build a house advice. I don't fucking know. No idea.
Yeah.
I could probably figure it out, but we wouldn't be real sturdy.
Stay out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
So no, and you're right. And this, it's all, the whole article is defer to experts and all that kind of stuff, which highlights your point, is that, she's doesn't have the discernment to understand the people that she's even talking to. So the last thing I want to do, because I don't want to get, I thought this article would be good for us, but I don't want to, I really, really, really want to get to your stuff. So then we go into, is ultra processed, wait, is this where it was? I want to make sure that I highlight the other person that we'll all know and love. By their very nature, plant-based meats are ultra-processed, an increasingly dirty word to many, including members of the Make America Healthy Again movement. To mimic the fiber structure of meat, faux versions may undergo 3D printing, extreme heat and cold manipulation, and extrusion processes similar to those applied to ultra-processed foods. Alternative meats contain natural and artificial additives, such as binders, emulsifiers, dyes, flavoring, stabilizers, and preservatives. The Impossible Burger, for example, uses a genetically modified organism, or GMO, to create heme, a molecule that creates the red color and the bleeding typical of beef. Proponents of the plant-based meat, however, say these alternatives don't meet the typical characteristics of ultra-processed foods, despite that whole list of things she just read off is crazy that you would consider that food. But of course, the defenders say, no, it's not an ultra-processed food, nor do they mimic the health harms. Experts, again, say that several of the top companies, such as Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger, have improved the nutritional quality of their products since they were first introduced, blah, blah, blah. Hold on, it gets better. Plant-based meats are a struggle due to their traditional high levels of salt and saturated fat, both leading players in the development of heart disease. Bullshit. Number one worldwide killer. A 2019 CNN analysis found Beyond and Impossible Burgers at the time had similar saturated fat profile as beef and cow. Hold on, I'm getting there. I want the name. Give me the name. Here we go. High levels of salt are another concern. In 2009, 19 analysis, Beyond Beyond Impossible and more traditional grain-based burgers each contain 370 to 390 milligrams of sodium. Store-bought turkey burgers, however, contained only 95 to 115 milligrams of sodium. They're just playing on saturated fat and sodium, which is just, again, so old and tired. But here we go. This may be a false comparison, however, as many people salt meat during the cooking process, says Christopher Gardner. Oh. Professor of medicine at Stanford University. Remember him, everybody?
Yeah.
Remember? Oh, Gardner, in a randomized control trial that Gardner published in 2020, people ate regeneratively farmed high-quality beef for 2 months before switching to beef, chicken, and pork products supplied by Beyond Meat for another 2 months. Yes, the red meat products were supplied. People had less salt, but we found people seasoned them before they ate them. Gardner said beef eaters ended up eating the same amount of salt as those who were eating the higher sodium plant-based products. Unbelievable. Blood pressure was identical during the two phases, but almost everyone was a pound or 2 or 3 lighter at the end of the Beyond Meat phase than the animal phase. Yeah, because they probably couldn't stomach all the crap food you were feeding them. Guys, this, and he goes into bad cholesterol. Christopher Gardner, just in case you're wondering, like, what are they talking about? Christopher Gardner is the social justice warrior guy who ended up on the dietary guidelines for 2025, who we detailed in an episode how he was manipulating his studies to get the outcomes that he wanted. He is a self-proclaimed, mostly vegan, and he does it for all the social reasons. And he doesn't even have a firm grasp of the science because he only ever uses cholesterol, saturated fat, and salt. The guy is a friggin' broken record. It's all he ever talks about. It's the only thing he knows. And these are the experts. It's the Walter Willits, the dietitians, and the Christopher Gardners. This article, like you said, Daryl, could have been written at any other time in history. It's the same old tired argument. It's such nonsense. If you go back and listen to the 2 years of our show, we have absolutely trashed all of these claims. We have talked so incessantly about this stuff. And here's Christopher Gardner trying to say, actually, eating a real whole food like meat and putting on, sea salt, that's just as bad as eating this highly ultra processed Beyond Meat that has a ton of unopposed sodium to make it taste like beef. So in the end, it really doesn't matter. It's wild to try to follow that insane logic. But that's Christopher Gardner trying to, has a conclusion. And no matter what kind of winding road we need to go on to get there, we're going to get there, damn it.
Yeah.
So
it's like the same people who put red meat and ultra processed foods in the same category. Or when they say they do science with saying meat and pizza in the same category.
Food frequency questionnaire is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, that's that. That article is wild. It's just a complete waste of time. And they mentioned GMOs, and they mentioned GMOs in a lot of those not ultra processed burgers, despite the fact that they're full of fillers and artificial dyes and blah, 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 and things to make them bleed. But they're not ultra processed. Trust us.
Right.
So what's new in the world of GMOs, Daryl, and pesticides? What is going on? What have you discovered for us?
Yeah, I saw a headline and I sent it to you, and then I kind of just dug into it. And it's called Section 453. So Section 453 is a provision in the U.S. Houses. So I learned that because I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I don't know. So there's one of the 2 chambers of Congress, right?
Yep.
So Section 453 is a provision in the U.S. House's Interior and Environmental Appropriations Act, and it's been debated as of July 31st, 2025. So it's being talked about again. Yeah. So it advanced in committee but hasn't become law, with ongoing debates expected on the House floor post-recess. So Section 453 restricts the EPA, so Environmental Protection Agency, from updating pesticide labels or taking regulatory actions that differ from previous health assessments, potentially shielding companies like Bayer from liability for harms like cancer or Parkinson's disease caused by chemicals like glyphosate and paraquat. Okay. So health and environmental concerns. So Section 453 prioritizes outdated EPA assessments over new scientific findings, potentially delaying or preventing public awareness of health risks. For instance, glyphosate classified as a probable carcinogenic by the International Agency for Research on Cancer.
Right.
does not have a cancer warning label on it, and the EPA's assessment does not classify it as such. So Section 453 would prevent updating of labels if reviewed. So that's a concern.
Wow.
Paraquat linked to Parkinson's disease could remain on the market without updating warnings. Again, same thing. So increasing exposure risks for farmers and communities. So a lot of this is making me think of the Child Vaccine Act in 1981, which granted vaccines manufacturers liability
86.
protection. 1986. What did I say?
Yeah. 81.
Yeah, 1986. Sorry,
Yeah.
I actually wrote 1986. Burp. So this is basically the same thing, but for pesticides, this provision would block lawsuits by creating impossibility preemption, where companies argue that they can't update labels due to EPA restrictions, dismissing state liability claims. So this covers over 57,000 pesticides affecting both domestic and foreign companies, right? And then I also found corporate conflict. So as usual,
this is exactly where I was wondering if we were going to go here.
Yeah. So as usual, they are, and just to reiterate, like the numbers I give, it's rough estimates. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of conflicting information on the exact dollar amount and the exact, I said 57,000 forms of pesticides. Obviously, a little bit of give take there. So as usual, like I said, there are potential corporate conflicts such as Rep. Glenn Thompson or Thompson?
Okay.
TH?
Thompson. Yeah, it'll be just Thompson.
Okay, Thompson, who received over $340,000 from crop and pesticide linked interests in the 2023 and 2024 cycle, with significant contributions from industries like crop production and dairy, reflecting substantial support from agriculture-related sectors. As the top Republican on the House Agriculture Committee, he has significant influence over pesticide legislation, and one can only conclude that it is very likely he supported the 2026 Interior and Environmental Appropriations Acts, which includes Section 453.
Wow. I mean, not a surprise, but that's the first thing you think of is how many of our politicians, again, this is why we don't play Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, there are viewpoints, but the parties themselves, generally speaking, are one big, disgusting, conflicted financially and ideologically, like just this mess of conflicts of interest. And, it's really disgusting that these people, especially, and so maybe there's a bunch of different ways we could go with this, but my hope is that the pressure that will be put on this by virtue of the fact that RFK is where he is, obviously he doesn't have control over everything, and that's people want to pretend like he's like a dictator, like he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't.
Everything has to be voted in, like.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some stuff that he can do, but what he can really do is he has the megaphone, right? He has the public platform to be able to cause outrage. And the one thing these people, I'll tell you, the one thing these people don't want to hear from is you, the people. They don't want to hear from you. So if you can make your voices heard and you can make it uncomfortable for them, if this is a person that's your representative in the House, or it's your senator, or whoever's voting on whatever, you can make it known that you're against this. And they get enough phone calls, the pressure, because essentially then you're threatening their job, right? They'll lose their job, which means then they won't be able to take $340,000 payments from, agriculture companies. So it is something that you can do if this kind of stuff bothers you, and it should. So that's good. So Kennedy can at least, amplify this, but it's been going on forever, Daryl. It's just so hard to untangle this. And I don't think people understand just how hard it is to make, to create change. Going back to episode part 1, where we're like, people think that you can just wave a magic wand and you can get everything you want because, well, Kennedy said he was going to make America healthy again. Why is he only focusing on that? He's not. He's focusing on everything. But do you have any idea how dirty this system is?
Yeah, like fuck. It would be so overwhelming. You know what I mean? Trying to and not only trying, but having resistance everywhere you go, right? Like holy, like I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
So
it's one thing to diagnose the problem, but then it's another thing to have. It's like picture a surgeon, right? A brain surgeon who has figured out what the problem is. I can cure this patient. I have opened up the skull. I'm in the brain. I can fix this patient. But now the surgeon's job gets harder because another doctor comes in with a scalpel and wants to sword fight, and wants to like protect what was already there. It's like it's hard enough to identify what's wrong. And now you've got people actively working against you in the process.
yeah, you know what? You just made me think of something, and I saw this yesterday. I don't know the name. You will probably know. There was a doctor in X years who was firmly believed that SIBO caused ulcers, and he would not get the funding for the research. Everybody told him, you're cuckoo. And so he gave himself SIBO and developed ulcers a week later. Do you know who it is?
I don't know the name, but he was H. pylori. He was trying to prove that H. pylori. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. I know.
Yeah.
It's a great, And so he gave himself H. pylori to prove that was what the cause of stomach ulcers was. Because up till this point, we believed that stomach ulcers were caused by only stress.
Right.
Only stress. And he was saying, no, there's a pathogen here. There's, and he, talk about belief in yourself, which is
a stressor.
Of course.
Stress comes in many shapes, right? So
Yep.
So the Roundup ingredient change. So Bayer, a global pharmaceutical and life science company, acquired Monsanto. We've talked about this before. The original producer of Roundup in 2008 for $63 billion. Roundup, a widely used herbicide introduced in 1974, primarily containing glyphosate, which has been linked to cancer in numerous lawsuits, particularly Hodgkin's lymphoma. Facing over 125 claims, Bayer announced in 2021 that it would phase out glyphosate-based Roundup products for residential use in the U.S. by 2023, replacing them with new formulas containing alternative active ingredients such as, I can't fucking say this.
Oh no, they're crazy. It's
fluazephobibutyl. Okay. Triclopyr salt, diquat dibromide, and imazapic ammonium. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Those are obviously the chemical names, which was always really fun to study in chemistry class when you had to learn how to pronounce the chemistry names.
My French brain was like, no, but I put them in there. Okay. So this change was part of a 5-point plan to manage litigation risks as confirmed by Bayer's official communications. So the company settled about 75% of these claims with a nearly $10 billion settlement in 2020, but still faces around 30,000 unresolved cases and the potential obviously for future claims. So as most lawsuits originated from residential lawn and garden users, Bayer ceased selling glyphosate-based products for this market segment starting in 2023. So you want to talk on that, or do you want me to keep going?
No, you can keep going.
Yeah. So lack of transparency. So as you and I discussed offline, there's not a ton of research yet on the changes of ingredients, but there is reports such as one by Friends of the Earth, which is a non-governmental environmental organization in Washington, D.C., that claims that Bayer's new Roundup formulation may be up to 45 times more toxic to human health than glyphosate-based versions, which with potential risks including reproductive defects, kidney and liver damage, neurotoxicity, and this would just appear to be basically swapping one evil for another and potentially like a worse one, which they love to do, right? Just move this problem here to this, and now you can't sue us for this because this is what you are suing us for. So now we change it. And without sufficient, and here's the issue. If Bill 453 goes through, updates and dangers on label warning are still not going to be there. So there's going to be a lack of transparency, and then just it all ties in together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, right. You're swapping one evil for another. And I think the real problem is, and it probably makes a lot of sense, that glyphosate, the public has been successful in creating a real PR problem with glyphosate. Doesn't matter how many people come out and say. There was a crazy professor from I can't remember where he was from, somewhere in Florida, and he had been paid, he'd been given a grant by Monsanto to do research, and he came out, he was making the social media rounds. I wrote about him a few years ago, where he was claiming glyphosate is so safe you could drink it, right? Like all these crazy things, and all the social media influencers would tell you glyphosate is perfectly safe. Remember the two, dipshits we watched last week make their seed oil pasta or their seed oil salads, like I'm sure they don't think glyphosate is a problem. And it's
also just like, ew.
I know, but despite that,
yeah,
but despite that fact, glyphosate does have a PR problem, and now they're just going to swap it out for names that are unpronounceable, and maybe not as much research, and it's just going to start the clock over again, because now they're going to say, well, we got rid of glyphosate, and now you're going to be a conspiracy theorist about this, and it's like, yeah, that's the point. The point is, again, you have to prove that it's safe. So I did find one paper, and let me just share it with you just to show you what I'm talking about. But I looked up all 4 of these ingredients this week, and there is not a lot of research on any of these, and that's alarming.
Yeah.
But there is this, and this is a paper from 2025, May. Effects of diquat on gut health, molecular mechanisms, toxic effects, and protective strategies. So in the abstract, they say, studies show that diquat primarily enters the body through the digestive tract, leading to poisoning. The core mechanisms of its toxicity involves reactive oxygen species induced oxidative stress, which not only directly damages the intestinal barrier function, but also exacerbates inflammation and systemic toxicity by distributing the balance of the gut microbiota, by disrupting the balance of the gut microbiota and the normal production of metabolic products.
Which is the foundation of health.
Yeah. So, and you can go through this paper and, it's a brand new paper. So where this is just one paper.
Yeah, because probably people are seeing these ingredients and are like, okay, we need to fucking, do something about this. We need to look at them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't, this is just one paper, but it's the start of the process. And when we did this before with glyphosate, it took me, it took me several years to collect all of the research. I have a whole Word doc that's probably 5 to 6 pages long with links and biochemical mechanisms and everything about glyphosate, what it does.
We've done an episode on 2 episodes on glyphosate as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every time we do it, we collect more information, right? And so you just slowly start to build up your repertoire, and you start to build up the understanding of the product. Now, what they're going to say is, well, again, because everyone knows glyphosate is no good. Even the layperson kind of understands, like, it just has a bad PR problem. So now they're going to switch to other ingredients that are unnameable, unpronounceable, and really not a ton of research, and expect us to now trust. I mean, like in a sane world, why would anybody trust the company that just basically tacitly admitted that their previous product was the cause of all kinds of problems and is paying lawsuits?
Here's the thing is that they never came out and said yes. They just paid.
Right.
That's the thing. And it's not just that company. It's the company that bought a company. Like it, and there's a history with the company. You know what I mean?
Yes, there is. And I know that you recently, you were telling me that you recently came across this. And this is something that when I stumbled upon this years ago and used to talk about this, people didn't believe me how crazy
I have the publication as well. So
yeah. So please share with us how crazy this is.
Yeah, it fucking blew my mind. And this happens a lot with research, and I had to stop there because I was like, if I keep going, I'm probably going to find more things, and I'm going to close this coffee shop. So Bayer had and has more than just pesticide controversy. In the 1980s, Bayer's division conducted laboratories sold blood clotting agents that were at high risk of transmitting HIV to hemophiliacs, which is a genetic disorder where the individual has an inability to clot properly. So this happened after the company came out with a safer version. So evidence suggests that Qatar continued selling this riskier version of blood products in Asia and Latin America for over a year after the safer version was available in efforts to deplete existing stock. This led to thousands of hemophiliacs in those regions becoming infected with HIV and developing AIDS. In the 1990s, the 4 companies that were involved in this, Bayer being one of them, paid out $640 million in damages to settle this lawsuit, all without admitting wrongdoing to the public. Again, sort of what they are doing now with glyphosate, paying out claims, but not stating or confirming it being carcinogenic. And now we have even worse ingredients, or possibly, and even less transparency and liability with maybe Section 453 coming about. So that's horrendous. And the publication is, for those who want to look at it, is PMID 247859997.
I can link it below.
Yeah, which basically tells you exactly what I just said. So there's a history with the company.
Yeah. There's
a history with lawsuits. There's a history with ingredients and cancer-producing ingredients and all sorts of concerns. And so why the hell would we think that this new formula has any of our health interests at heart? Ever.
Well, we can wrap this up in a bow by saying, well, if all you care about is calories, then I guess it really doesn't matter, does it? I mean, and again, this is the stupidity, right, of these arguments, the utter and total stupidity. Processed foods, by their nature, will have more of these kinds of things in them. So again, calorie for calorie makes no sense. But even still, and you know, this is like, this story is so wild. I remember, I think the drug was called Factor 8, if I remember correctly. And it was, they basically did, and the way I brought it up on this show before, was just in passing. I said, basically, they did like a back of the envelope calculation. They knew it would cost X amount of dollars to dump the existing supply. It would cost them this because they manufactured it, and this is what it cost. But if we keep selling it to unsuspecting people, maybe we'll get caught, maybe we won't. And if we do, the amount we'll have to pay out won't nearly be as much as would have cost us to dump the drug in the first place, right? The honorable thing to do, of course, is to dump the drug once you understand this. But also the fact that this was inevitable because they were sourcing some of the blood from inappropriate sources, I believe. I remember reading something about this. They were sourcing it from like prisons and places that you're not allowed to source from. It's a whole thing. We won't go into it because I don't have it in front of me. But it's a sordid story. If the reason I'm saying it is because I don't want people to think that it was an accident. It was not an accident. It was absolutely intentional.
Yeah.
And they
say it was an accident. Okay. In the beginning, say there was a manufacturing accident. When you found out that there was an issue and continued to sell it for a year to different countries other than your own, there are multiple times where you could have taken action and you didn't.
Yep.
So
no,
don't fucking trust these people, period.
There's no way around it. And I don't think, it boggles the mind that people could put that kind of trust in companies that have done, that have done things that have literally caused the death of other people. They look at you, I've said this before, they look at you as a number on a ledger. You're just a number to them. And if they can increase their profit margin at the cost of your health, fine. If they happen to create something that also does actually help, that's fine too. But I'm telling you, that's not the driving force. The driving force is
I don't even think
profit.
they look at us as numbers. I think all the numbers they're looking at is their money numbers. I don't think they give company. I don't think this company gives a fuck about.
No, absolutely. Right.
Numbers. Yeah.
Right. We're just the people that have to be in existence to spend the money to buy the product and the insurance. You know, that's all we are. Nothing more. Yeah. That's the way Anthony Fauci looked at things too. You know, when he would talk about like acceptable deaths and things like this, it's like, it's such a bizarre way to look at the world. And again, you're not talking about triaging best case, worst case scenario. You're talking about an intentional choice between human life and profit. And when given those choices, and we've seen it with glyphosate before, where information was hidden, was lied about, court cases, all that kind of stuff. When there's a choice between human life and profit, they fall on the same side every time. And I don't know what it's going to take to get people to stop initially trusting them. And this was my point back in part 1. They don't deserve your trust to start. Bless you. They don't deserve your trust to start. They deserve your skepticism to start. The default position of all of us should be skeptical, and it's not. And it's because influencers have convinced you that you're a conspiracy theorist for believing this stuff. But what Daryl just told you could easily be called a conspiracy theory, except the fact that it happened and it's true and it's documented.
No. It's not. It's not a conspiracy theory. These are facts. Yep. Go look it up.
So, well, I mean, I guess that's a good place to end it, even though it's on kind of a sour note, because it just highlights how much further we have to go. And when we talk about the Make America Healthy Again movement, you know, there's a lot to be said about it, and there's a lot of things that I want to see happen. And again, I'm, you know, we're only barely 7 months, you know, into this thing. Can we just see what happens at the end, please? You know, I don't expect that we're going to get everything we want. It's not, the world doesn't work like that. Again, back to part 1, Dow, remember, you don't just get everything you want because that's what you want, right? We have to exist in the current paradigm, which is to say you're going to have people working against you, right?
And change takes time.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
For me, it's so long as I keep seeing a push and that direction of trying to make things better for us. Probably not going to agree with everything all the time, but
right.
I can't see this moving forward unless it's done, unless RFK has no say
right.
in it moving forward, because he is so adamant about glyphosate. How could he not be against this?
Well, I'm sure he will be, but like you said, the question is, how many members of the House have been bought and paid for by the industry that is going to be voting on this? That's the really ultimate question, and he has to just use his megaphone to call these people out,
right.
to put them in the spotlight, so that when their constituents say, "Why did you vote for this? I'm not voting for you now," right? Like that's what has to happen, and in the end, it could get passed, even if RFK comes out against it, because, you know, people are looking at it going, well, Trump and RFK, they're probably only going to be here for another 3 years, but I'm going to be here for, you know, another 20 years. So,
yeah, especially if they're all paid, just like,
yeah. You know, like these companies contribute to your campaigns. So like, trust me, in politics, people look at the long road for themselves. And when you've got an administration that comes in and goes out, sometimes people just like hunker down and say, okay, I just got to get through these 4 years. Hopefully not too much changes so I can continue the gravy train. And that's, you know, unfortunately, Daryl, that's the world we live in. And I don't think people want to admit and accept that, but it is the reality. And if you don't accept the reality, then you're living in some kind of fantasy world that's not real. And your health is going to suffer because of it.
I think a lot of people do.
I think that a lot of people do as well. Yeah. But your health is going to suffer if you keep deferring to these people. So now you're armed with a little bit more knowledge. I think this was really good. You know, I knew all the parts would connect, but I actually didn't realize how well they would all connect. You
always do.
You're going to have to trust your gut. And I think that's why you guys are here. So we thank you for being here. If you have any questions or anything, drop them in the comments. And if not, then we'll just see you next time.
Ciao for now, my friends.